Stop thinking about it and finally do the thing. I recently saw a clip of Brett Goldstein, actor and comedian that you probably know from Ted Lasso, being asked what advice he would give to his younger self, and this is what he had to say.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Do the thing, just get on with it, because you're going to do it anyway. And all the time you spend worrying about doing the thing is really wasted time.
And in this interview, he's talking specifically about when he first started comedy and tried comedy for the first time, and he really enjoyed it. And it was kind of like, what was I worried about? Like, now I just want to get good at this thing. And that has so been my experience as well. If you know anything about my journey to get to self-employment, I tried a lot of different side hustles and a lot of different things along the way. And one common theme across all of them has been that I took way too long to finally do the thing. I'm definitely someone that gets stuck in perfectionism and kind of thinking about doing the thing, and it takes me a long time to finally get to the point where I launch the thing out into the world. And another really important point that he makes is stop worrying about it because you're going to do it anyways. And this has really been my experience as well. There have been things that I have thought about kind of off and on throughout the years and haven't really seriously pursued them. And then by the time I really do seriously pursue them, it's kind of like, why did it take me so long? Why did I not pursue this for so many years? Because I ended up doing it anyways, and it would have just been so much easier if I had just done it earlier. And this video was called Stop Thinking About the Thing and Finally Do It. And what do I mean by thinking about the thing? There's so many different ways we can kind of spend our time thinking about the thing. And Brett used the word worrying. And this is kind of the first stage of thinking in my mind. When you're worrying, you're kind of like, well, I kind of want to do it, but should I? I don't think I should. It's probably not a good idea. You're kind of in this like, should I, shouldn't I worrying stage where you're not really taking any action and you're just kind of thinking about it and worrying whether or not you should do it. And this creates a lot of internal stress and tension because part of you, your soul is calling you to do this thing and you aren't quite embracing it yet. And you aren't quite responding to the call, which I made a video about that topic and I'll link it up here. For me personally, the second form of thinking about doing the thing looks like bargaining. And what I mean by this is you're like, okay, I'm going to start on Monday, or I'm going to start on the first of the month, or I'm going to start on, the new year, whatever that is, right? And it kind of relieves some of that tension that you can feel when you're thinking and worrying about doing the thing, but you aren't doing it yet. And so you've now told yourself, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it on Monday. And so you can kind of relax and you don't feel that tension as much anymore. But what I find is that like Monday always keeps getting kicked down the road. It's like Monday comes along and something comes up and it's just not the right time. And okay, I'll do it, next Monday. Or, well, now I'll do it at the first of the next month or something like that, right? And it just keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And for me, there's this idea that there'll be like a perfect time in life to start something. And there really never is a perfect time. But if we imagine that there is a perfect time and you got started, usually the perfect time doesn't stay forever, right? Even if there was like the perfect Monday to get started, usually something is going to come up in life. And so what you need to get good at is being able to kind of handle everything and continue to pursue your dreams and your goals while also navigating life. And the last form of thinking about it that I have experienced that I mentioned earlier is this planning stage. And this is where you really get stuck in analysis paralysis. And for me, I have been so guilty of this. I have done this so many times. And I always would tell myself like, okay, there's just this list of like 5 things I need to do to be ready to launch, and then I can launch. But for some reason, that list always gets like longer and longer and longer, and it's kind of like a delay tactic at this point. And it just becomes a way to stay in your little safe planning bubble rather than doing the scary thing, which is launching it out into the world to potentially get feedback and to put yourself out there. And this stage is so tricky because you do need to do planning in order to do the thing, but it can be very tempting to have this planning stage take forever, years even in the planning stage without getting any feedback from external people, without making any money from your idea, if it's a business idea, or without growing truly in the skill. You're just planning to do the thing. And it's so dangerous because it feels productive. It technically is productive because you do need some degree of planning. So you feel like, yeah, I'm taking action on the thing, I'm doing the thing, but you're not doing the thing. You're just planning to do the thing. And of course, like I said, this keeps you in your comfort zone, in your safe little planning bubble, and you don't need to face the fears that you are worried may happen when you finally do the thing. And Brett has something to say about fears as well, and this is what he has to say.
When I first did stand-up, I was 27. I always loved stand-up, but I was terrified. I just thought it's something other people do because it's too scary. And so I was just like, I'm just going to do one gig and I won't tell anyone. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, we never need to speak of it again. And I did that first gig and it was like, this is the shit. Why have you waited so long? Now you got to get good at this. I think a lot of fear is that you'll be bad at the thing. And the truth is you will be bad at the things. You haven't done the thing yet.
So he says, yeah, you're scared that you'll be bad at the thing. And the truth is you will because you haven't done the thing yet, which is so true. When you're trying something new, you're not going to be good at it. You're going to be that little awkward baby animal trying to learn to stand up and walk for the first time. You're going to fall down. It's going to feel awkward. You're going to look a little awkward maybe. And that is all just part of the growth phase before you really get good at what you're doing. And so the fears can be different for all of us. For me, some of the fears that I tend to have are fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, maybe a little bit, or even like Brett said, fear of being bad at the thing. And so this leads to the next kind of myth, which is that being perfect will prevent you from experiencing any of these bad things. And I think that this is something that I have really fallen into as well, is this myth of perfection, which is why I stayed so long in the planning stages, because I was just working on perfecting things while planning long enough that they'll be like perfect by the time that I launch, which is a myth. That's not true. And part of this is really thinking that like, if I'm perfect, I can't fail. If I'm perfect, I won't be bad. And if I'm perfect, like no one can judge me or give me harsh feedback if I just show up perfectly, which is not true. Even if you were somehow your version of perfect, you will never make everyone happy. That is the biggest thing that I have learned over the last few years. You can show up and do your best job ever that you could possibly do, and you still will not make everyone happy. So just throw this myth of perfection out the window because it does not exist. And there's a story that really illustrates this so well. It is from a photography professor at the University of Florida named Jerry Uelsman. And he did a experiment back in the day where he split his class into two groups. One was a quantity group and one was a quality group. And so the quantity group was graded entirely on how many photos they took by the end of the semester. So more photos, better grade. And the quality group was graded on one single photo where the students were asked to present their best photo, the most perfect photo by the end of the semester. And of course, by the end of the semester, when all the photos were submitted, the quantity group had far better photos, far better results than the quality group, because the quantity group was out there practicing, learning, experimenting, and figuring out what actually worked, and their skill built along the way, and so their product in the end was much better. Whereas the quality group, they sat around just kind of theorizing about what made a good photo, and they spent a lot more time overanalyzing and hesitating and even second guessing themselves. And that was reflected in their work at the end of the semester because they had not developed a depth of skill that comes with the repetition and the practice and the learning by doing. And so if perfection is not the solution, then what is it? Well, there's no secret, there's no hack, there's no tips and tricks. It's really simple. It's to just get started. Just take that first imperfect step. And so there's a few things that may prevent you from getting started. One of them could be simply overwhelm. If you think about where you want to go or what you want to do, there's a lot of steps and learning in between where you are now and where you want to be. And so overwhelm can definitely be something that can kind of keep us stuck in our tracks. For example, if I put in my weekly planner, just make YouTube video, there are so many steps that go into making a YouTube video from the start until the finish that there's no way that I could just check that off in one single day. Unless I spent like the whole day working on a YouTube video, that's not really how I work. I like to chunk things down, which is what you can do if you're feeling overwhelmed. So instead of a big task like make YouTube video that could take, let's say, 8 hours over the course of a week, I could break it down into 1 to 2 hour tasks and work on it day by day. Another thing that may stop you from starting is what we've talked about at length in this video, which is overthinking and perfectionism. And so the remedy for this is to focus on a minimum viable product, which is how can I start now with where I am now? And so something that can happen, take me for example, when I look at other people in the like coaching and astrology space, I see their businesses, they're 10 steps ahead of me, right? And I can be very inspired by what they have achieved and what they have created. And I can say, I want that for myself. But if I start focusing on trying to replicate their business, who are 10 steps ahead of me, that's going to lead to overwhelm, first of all, but also it can lead to this idea of perfection, right? Like they've had a lot of time to really put in the reps, iterate, adjust, and get their business just like super smooth and really successful. And if I'm trying to replicate that right off the bat, it's a little unrealistic and it can lead to that perfectionism and trying to take too long actually to build up something that looks like someone who is 10 steps ahead of me. So instead of focusing on that as my first sort of output, that's the inspiration. And I can say, okay, where can I start now and allow myself to grow towards that inspiration over time? And that's the language I use for myself that has been really useful for me in recent times to get things moving along and overcome my bad habit of being perfectionist and taking too long to plan and execute things. And so I just say, how can I start now? How can I start with what I have now, with what I know now, with where I am right now? And that really helps me to overcome obstacles where I start to think like, oh, well, I need XYZ first before I can launch. And I really bring myself back down to earth and I say, how could I start now? The biggest thing to focus on is consistent long-term action. Focus on taking action, practicing, learning, pivoting, getting that feedback, and over time, really developing a depth of skill in whatever it is that you are wanting to do. And just remember what Brett said in his interview. Once he figured out that he liked that thing, he said, okay, now I need to get good at this. And that's the same for you. Just get started and then get good at it. What is that one thing that continues to call to you, that continues to nag at you, that you may be overthinking or putting off? Whatever that thing is, make the commitment to start today. And of course, this will require a little bit of planning, but don't get stuck in the planning phase. Be realistic about how long it'll take to really get started, but give yourself a tight deadline. Force yourself into action, because if you've been thinking about this for a long time, what's more important is just getting started. And I'll say it again, there's no tricks, there's no hacks. The only thing that stands between you and what you want is just getting started. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. And if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video real soon.